Alright, what is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to another A3 video. Today is going to be a little bit more of an in-depth tutorial style video because I've actually got a little bit of a problem that I was hoping I wouldn't have to deal with anytime soon, but that day has actually come after I was doing a little bit of a mountain climb the other day to go for a hike. I noticed that there was a lot of smoking coming from my engine bay. Turns out that unfortunately my cam cover, the seal, has now decided it is the right time to fall apart and is leaking oil, not super excessively, but to the point where any aggressive driving where I get the car nice and hot, it starts smoking. Get that figured out. If any of you have looked into doing this yourself, you know that not only that this isn't a super easy thing to do, the sealant that you would use for this job from Volkswagen is super expensive compared to what you could get at a local retailer to use as a gasket sealant, and that is because the sealant is actually anaerobic, I believe is the correct word for it, but basically that means that the sealant gets hard in an environment which lacks oxygen, so on the inside of your engine. So we've gone ahead and we have some Permatex stuff that we found that is anaerobic, so we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna use that. Hopefully it works so that we don't have to come back and do this again and end up having to use the Volkswagen stuff, because the stuff is actually about a quarter of the price for the same amount of volume that essentially does the same thing. We're gonna go ahead and we're gonna do that. We're also gonna try and do this the easiest way possible without damaging anything, because I know that when you do this job as per the actual Audi or Volkswagen manual, depending on what car you drive, I drive an A3, which you'll see in a second if you aren't subscribed to my channel, you need to lock the camshaft so that your timing doesn't chain. But a lot of people have said online that you don't actually have to do this if you're really careful with taking the cam cover off and you don't screw around with the timing chain or anything like that. But we're gonna make sure that in the event that any of this does happen, we'll let you guys know, and then we'll go and we'll do the cam locking, and we'll also make sure that the timing is all correct. So without further ado, we're gonna jump right into this. I'll show you guys how bad my leak is first, but if you are not mechanically inclined, especially with the TSI in this configuration having the valve cover or the cam cover actually hold the cams down, this isn't something you want to do if you're a complete beginner when it comes to working on cars. You can do it if you are super careful, but you just have to take your time and be careful and make sure you don't screw anything up, because this could be a catastrophic issue if it's not done correctly. There is because there aren't tons of tutorials to do this. There are a couple of people who have recorded themselves doing it on YouTube, but no one really talks about what to remove, what you need to replace, like how to do this properly and how to avoid making these mistakes. They just kind of film it as they're doing it and don't really explain anything. So I want to be the one person that can help you guys do that. Let's take a look at the A3 outside the garage and just see how bad this leak actually is. So this tutorial is going to be for the EA888 TSI. This is not an FSI motor. And for those of you wondering, my engine code is a CCT. I don't even know if you can see that down there, but this is a CCTA TSI. So if you have one, you follow along. I don't know the difference between the other TSIs specifically, but we'll go ahead and show you guys the leak. So if you look back here, along all of this rail right here is super moist, and especially right here is really wet. So that's what we're gonna be fixing today. And when I first bought the car, up here it was a little bit bad, but it's not as bad as it is at the back, so we're gonna go ahead and fix that. All right, so obviously I'm gonna start with the old coil packs as per usual. So we got those guys out. And now since I have a PCV delete, we're gonna pull the PCV delete off. Your PCV is the same thing. Just gonna undo all the bolts, put that somewhere clean. I have a fresh piece of cardboard set up over there. And then once we get that off, we're gonna go ahead and do the fuel pump. So we'll rip that guy out. We're going to go ahead and disconnect this little sensor right here. Just unbreak that. I'll just leave that in. And then now we're gonna pull the intake out of the way so we can get to the high pressure fuel pump. Okay, so now we're gonna take all of the accessory lines off of the high pressure fuel pump area. All right, so with a 17, yeah, so if your shit's pressurized, there's gonna be a wee bit of fuel that comes out, which is completely normal. And now we're gonna go ahead and unbolt the actual high pressure fuel pump itself. So there's 2 Torx bits, and I believe they're T25s, one on the top and one on the bottom. And then you'll have the cam follower and everything that's a part of the high pressure fuel pump and the spring and all that. Just make sure that all comes out so you don't lose that. And we're gonna go ahead and take the connector off the top as well. Okay, and then we're gonna take the little rubber hose that goes off of the fuel pump and take the little stupid ass clip down if it'll go. Now this guy's been on there for 80,000 kilometers, so I don't know how easily this is gonna. All right, so now we're gonna crack the high pressure fuel pump bolts, which are a T30. And we're doing this by hand. We don't use a tool on that. Okay, so we took the fuel pump off, but we left the hose attached just because it's on there so tight that I can't get it off by hand. So other than just like trying to rip it all apart and breaking the line, I've just moved it off to the side, put it on a rag so I don't break that. If you have a magnet that's pointy enough, stick it in there and get the follower out for the high pressure fuel pump. Make sure you don't drop that. Make sure nothing gets in your fuel lines, and of course make sure you don't drop a bolt in your engine, because if you do that, then you're uber screwed. Now we're gonna go ahead and pull off the large part of the fuel pump. We're gonna go ahead and pull this guy off the back here. So I'll pull that off next. So this weird little sensor thing at the back, T25, gonna go ahead and take that off. Yeah, this wasn't super tight, so when it goes back in, it won't be super tight either. Okay, that's got a little retaining ring on it, so that shouldn't be able to fall out. Go ahead and pull the line for that off. Here as well, down here as well, just so we have as much mobility on that as possible. Okay, so now we're gonna go ahead and pull the rest of the fuel pump out, which should be a T30, wherever the hell I put that. So we're gonna crack the T30s off now. One there, one in the back, one down here. And then this one has a little bracket on it, the bottom one. So we're gonna take that out with it, if it'll come. There we go. And then just gonna go put these somewhere safe. And very, very, very carefully gonna take that off, because it's also got a gasket on it. And we don't want a gasket, which is that guy right there. All right, so now in theory, everything that we need to have out, other than the bolts for the timing cover, which I will do now, should be out. All right, so now we're gonna start unbolting the cam cover. So for the TSI, we have to follow the torque pattern, obviously, which I've got there, and I will put a link to in the description. That doesn't have torque specs on it. We're not worried about that right now because we're taking it apart. So we're gonna go ahead and just start cracking these guys off in order. Little note you need to know, this guy here, I'm pretty sure this deals with the valve timing. I'm not 100%. I'll like put what this actually is on the video. So it comes out of your upper timing cover, and that actually holds the cover to the camshaft itself. So you won't be able to push that out far enough to get the cam cover to come out. So that needs to come out, and that's 3 T30 Torx bits. And then you also need to undo the whole timing cover. It's a little bit tricky because the bolt that's down here next to the dipstick is a little bit hard to get to, but you just need to loosen them just so it has enough flex to get out. And then you pull the cam cover out. So now we're just gonna go ahead and clean it. So now we just gotta clean up all this. I already got some of that side done. Gotta get in here, get all that, and then obviously do the back side, which is the worst because of the leak. And then we'll slap it all back together and hopefully be done tonight. Ah, see it.
This has to go.
All right, so it's actually been about 12 hours since we finished doing the cam cover. I just wanted to give it a little bit of an opportunity overnight to kind of dry up a little bit, but since the gasket material is actually anaerobic, it did not dry on the outside of the cam cover. So we're gonna go ahead and start the car and check for some leaks, make sure our fuel lines are all good. We already did the priming procedure and it looks like we have no leaks, so we're just gonna go ahead and start it. Let the car run for a little bit just to kind of create a little bit more of a vacuum seal on the inside of the cam cover to get rid of more of that oxygen to help that gasket seal up if it hasn't already on the inside. So without further ado, let's start the A3. All right, so it seems to be good. We don't have any leaks visible, no fuel leaks, no oil leaks. Everything's connected, nice and good. We're gonna wait for the car to heat up a tiny little bit here just to kind of get it to a bit of an operating temperature before we shut it off, just to give it, and then we'll check for leaks again, and I think that'll be it. Alright, so that's the end of the video today. Hope you guys enjoyed. And if you did, don't forget to like and subscribe if you're new. Any of the information that I mentioned in the video or any parts that you will need in order to do this repair on your vehicle, I will put down in the description, so make sure you check that out. And I'll also have the links to my other social medias if you guys want to follow me on there. But anyways, peace out, and I will see you in the next video.